I've called this podcast Mind Over Matter because today's guest is an endurance specialist, one of the world's top female athletes at running extreme distances. Hi, welcome back to Zestology, the podcast all about energy and vitality. It's the new rules of health, coming to you from central London in Tanner Street Park, which is where I am today. And I'm Tony Wrighton. I present Zestology every week, and today, me and Anna Marie Watson explore all kinds of hacks for more energy. We talk about heart rate variability, the importance of sleep, nutrition, genetics, nature, and mindset, and we delve pretty deep as well. We recorded this while cramming in a spot of frosty London Cryotherapy. I recorded a podcast before at London Cryo, and thank you very much to London Cryo for letting us use their place. We also used Normatec compression, and that'll be the weird whirring sound you can hear in the background. Normatec's really great. It's kind of like having a massage on your legs while you're just lying there and relaxing after the intensity of 3 minutes very cold temperatures. So yeah, you'll hear a bit of cryo action and a bit of Normatec action, and me and Anna Marie, who is a repeat guest on Zestology, a friend of the show without a doubt, catching up on loads of stuff. She's had an incredible year in terms of her performance. So how did she do it? Okay, we're recording.
Let's go.
How you feeling?
I'm kind of being squidged. I've got big balloons, big black balloons on my legs, and it's been compressed at different times.
Yeah, I mean, you're so hardcore that this probably is just like, you barely notice this.
I don't know, I've never done this before. I've walked past various expo stands at triathlons and various races and seen people sat with their legs elevated, but I've never actually had a go. So
yeah, it's like a nice massage, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And you were saying that you've integrated massage as part of your recovery routine now.
Oh, very much so. Gemma, my sports masseuse, is phenomenal. She pieces my body back together. I see her at least once a month, and depending on like my training load, more frequently. She works absolute magic. Though at the times it can be quite painful when I'm on her table of pain. yeah. When I was, we were talking earlier that I went to Thailand in January, and we obviously recorded a couple of podcasts there. And one of the great things about Thailand is you can get massages everywhere because it's kind of it's almost a national pastime to go and get a massage. And I was getting one pretty much every day and loving it. And then after about 2 weeks, I met this guy, and he was he's a punter. He punts boats down rivers in Germany for 7 months of the year. So you know, if you go to Oxford and you get on a boat, you'll have the man at the front who's punting you down the river. That's what he does in Germany.
And he does it on a famous river in Germany. And he does it it's the summer. It's a seasonal thing, so he does it from like March till October. And of course, what you do when you're punting, it's all one-sided. So it's complete. So his back is in absolute pieces. So he goes to Thailand for 5 months every winter and gets a massage every day. And he said, "What you got to do, mate, is you got to go to Papaya Massage. It's the best massage place on the island."
So clearly, you had to go to Papaya Massage.
I went to Papaya Massage and got down there, and it was like completely off the tourist drag. You wouldn't have ever found it. Absolutely packed in there. Went for a massage every day there for a couple of weeks. And it was so good, but it was actually it really wasn't pleasurable.
Was it proper Thai cracking of everything all over the place? And they would kind of tut under their breath whenever they found a knot. And of course they found loads of knots in my back. But after a while, it was so painful that I actually had to give myself a couple of days off to recover from the massage. So it wasn't really recovery, but I could feel myself kind of slowly loosening up. Yeah, if anyone ever goes to Koh Phangan, you need to find Papaya Massage. Go and try it. I'll put it on the list.
Yeah. But this is like the next best thing, I think. And I suppose it is doing a slightly different thing as well, the Normatec. Yeah. Yeah,
and that's, I'm always keen to just experiment with different ways of, what supports my recovery, how can I improve my performance. Clearly I've got a bit of an ultra running habit, though it's not just the training, it's actually a lot of the things outside the training that support my performance, whether it's the sleep, whether it's nutrition, whether it's elements of this like recovery, whether it's testing out the cryotherapy. It's all marginal gains. Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
And ultimately you want to be able to recover, because that is what is setting you up for your next training session or your next performance.
What is the thing that gives you the most maximum gains of the marginal gains? Is the one thing, I mean, is it massage or is it something else?
Sleep.
Is it?
I think definitely sleep. And that is totally prioritised within my schedule. I have quite a structured sleep routine and time that I want to be in bed by, and 8 hours is the cited number that everyone should be hitting. And if I'm getting 8 hours, I'm grumpy. Particularly if I've got a big and intense training load, I want more than that. And I've just had an event 2 weeks ago in Oman, which was a complete monster, which just ravaged my body and mind. And after that, particularly with the travel as well and the flights and the time differences, I was soaking up a good 10 and a half hours and still feeling pretty fatigued in the following week.
Wow. Okay. So what was the event in Oman?
So it was the first edition of Oman by UTMB. So UTMB, Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, is a 100-miler in the French Alps. It's been around since 2003, and it's like the crown and the glory of the Ultra Trail World Tour Series. So they've now franchised, as a lot of ultra race companies have, but triathlons as well. So this was the first edition, quite small. There was just over 300 athletes on the start line. So you're in Oman.
How long is it?
So it was 137k.
Right, and you're running this?
Well, the terrain, it was a trail run, though there wasn't much trails going on. It was more rock, boulder, hopping, and literally some of the climbs were 3 points of contact. There was one bit where
3 points of contact?
Yeah, like literally 3 points climbing up these pretty vertical cliffs.
So you're not running?
No, not at all. And there was one point where there's actually a via ferrata, and they put you into a harness and a helmet as safety. So there were quite a few exposed bits, and you're literally down to a walk. You've got your poles, and it's just 1 foot in front of another getting to that finish line. And the finish rate was 44% who started. So
44% of the people who started finished.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty good in the first place to even head there.
Yeah.
Why were people dropping out?
It was a long. It started at 6 o'clock at night, so you're straight into a 12-hour block of dark, and mentally that is really hard. I mean, it got to 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was just the torchlight. It starts to kind of bewitch you, and kind of you see shadows that emerge beyond it, and your hallucinations kind of start to creep in. And it was just like, right, come on, we just want some sun. Where is that first ray of light? Which finally, thank God, emerged. But then going into a second night after you've been up for 24 hours racing, but also that day before you start, it's not as if you can get much rest. So it is, physically and mentally really, really tiring. And the terrain as well was really hard. The race organisers didn't know how long it was going to take people. And there were quite tight cut-offs at some of the checkpoints, which people just didn't make, or they made a calculated guess they weren't going to make it to the next checkpoint. And actually, from a safety perspective, it was, okay, let's be sensible about this. We're in the mountains, which people, they took that call, which, thankfully, I think the worst, there was someone who, I think, broke their shoulder, like collarbone, and that was it.
Yeah.
Which actually, when you were looking at some of the terrain, is extremely lucky.
So how long did it take you?
So it took me 26 hours, 27 minutes and 20 seconds.
And where did you come?
So I was 9th overall and first lady. So it's,
wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Fantastic. That's great.
Fantastic end to my season.
Yeah.
It was my A race for the year. And I do try to target like a specific race so I can channel my efforts into that and perform. And sometimes I've had some races earlier in the season that didn't kind of quite go so well, and I didn't really enjoy them so much. But this race, I enjoyed it. I was smiling like the entire way around, which I know sounds ridiculous when
even at 5 o'clock in the morning when it was dark.
there was still a little inner smile there somewhere. But I genuinely enjoyed it. It's just the scenery was absolutely stunning. It's so rugged and so harsh, but it's that kind of harsh natural beauty. and you're talking to some of the people around you, maybe not that much in conversation because you're kind of going for it, but before and afterwards, it's that sense of camaraderie within the ultra running community. And Oman as a country is absolutely phenomenal to go and visit and have the opportunity to kind of explore. I spent quite a bit of time out there when I was working in the Middle East, so to actually be able to go back and do a race there was really quite special.
That's great. What's the kind of the pinnacle race for you? For people in your world, what is the thing that you just want to win or want to do better at above all else?
Well, it depends whether you're kind of coming more from an American or a European angle. For me, it's always been things like the Marathon des Sables and then the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc. So the UTMB, which takes place at the end of August, beginning of September, in Chamonix in the French Alps, and that is a bit of an annual migration for ultra runners.
Right.
And it is a bit of a lineup of who's who. And
is it?
Yeah.
So did you do that this year?
I didn't this year. I did it last year, and I didn't want to go back this year.
How did you do last year?
So last year I was 7th lady.
Yeah.
So to place within the top 10 is an amazing achievement, and it was unexpected. It was really, Chamonix for me has been my mountain home for the last 18 years. I've had quite a global nomadic existence, so I've seen this race develop and emerge, and never thought I'd be able to even be good enough to stand on the start line, to actually have the capabilities physically and mentally to tackle it.
Yeah.
So to then go and do it and to place that highly as well, I was really just, it was brilliant. Beyond wildest dreams.
And just while you're talking, I just want to explain to people, if you hear any weird sounds in the background, it's because there's all sorts going on here, isn't there? Not only have you got these compression pants on, which are kind of creaking and groaning as they kind of inflate with air and release, you've got what sounded like a fire alarm upstairs, but it's not, it's just the cryotherapy, and you also got what sounds like a drill occasionally, which is just the cryotherapy getting cold enough. We're going to go and do that in a bit, aren't we, after this? So.
It is. It's weird. It's weird the way that you hear the pressure kind of changing around your legs, and it's different kind of compression at different times on different parts. So I'm kind of like, just soak it all up. Come on, quads. You're enjoying this. This is relaxation.
It's pretty nice, though, isn't it?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Liking it.
I've been looking forward to talking to you actually, because I've been thinking quite a bit about heart rate variability recently. Do you measure your heart rate variability?
I do. And
do you?
Yeah. And since Crazy Race 2 weeks ago, it has just been
knocked out
completely, and my heart rate is still elevated.
That's interesting, because I've noticed, I use this whirring, and I've been using this for...
So you've got one?
Yeah, I've been using it at night for well over a year, but I got the new one that you can wear during the day. The old one was like so ugly that I actually didn't want to wear it out and about. I checked it out
online after hearing your podcast about it, actually. I'm kind of really tempted. But it's about getting the right sizing for it as well, I think.
It's, if you use the code Zestology, you'll get 50 quid off, I think. That's been the problem with me. I bought the wrong size, so I had to wear it on my thumb. But actually, it seems to fit quite well there, so that's fine. But one of the interesting things that I've noticed with the heart rate variability is, over the last 6 months, my heart rate variability has been slowly declining, and my heart rate has been slowly elevating. The first half of the year, it was kind of like much higher, and I've been trying to work out all these different things why that is, and I've actually struggled to come up with an answer until fairly recently. I think I might have cracked it, but this is why I want to talk to you about it, because heart rate variability, if people don't know, is the amount of kind of the timing and the intervals in between each beat of your heart, and the more that it varies, the better indicator that is of good health, right? And the worse that it is, it's all sorts of kind of dark predictors of early death and all sorts of things, isn't it? And if your heart rate variability is a lot down on a particular day, it could suggest that you're a bit ill or something like that. So that's why heart rate variability is important, and that's why it's great that we've got these devices that can measure it. The first half of the year, I was doing a challenge which you would be like an hors d'oeuvre.
No, it's all relative, and I strongly encourage everybody to do a challenge, whatever their level is, because it is all an achievement to go out.
Well, I did the 3 Peaks challenge, so
I've not done that myself yet.
Oh yeah, well you should. It was great fun. I mean, it was like there was 13 of us, so it was a real fun group trip, and we started on Snowdon at 5 o'clock in the evening. Then we got the minibus and we drove to Scarfell Pike, and then we got the minibus, finished that about 4 in the morning, and then we went to Ben Nevis. And having done Scarfell Pike at night, I must say, you were talking about doing Oman at night. there's something incredible about doing this kind of physical challenge when everyone else is sleeping. It's quite exciting. It's great, actually. I can see how you got the bug for it. But all the training and the kind of challenge itself meant that I was doing a lot of exercise, plus I was seeing a trainer at that point. And more recently, my workouts have been like, my trainer's left to go to another gym. I've been doing 40-minute workouts, not an hour, taking it a bit easier. And I think that might be the reason my heart rate variability has gone down. Yesterday I did a really hardcore workout, hardest it's been in ages. Heart rate variability shot up last night and heart rate shot down. Do you think that is the reason?
I think it's definitely a contributing factor.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's that level, it's that intensity and volume, and it's those two factors relating to your fitness. I very much measure my HRV each morning. I've just got an app on my phone that measures my pulse from the
Which one's
the
that?
light
Is it
sensor.
HRV for training?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I use that, and I've been using that probably for about 2 years now. And I've just got a Fitbit as well, which measures my heart rate. So I kind of use, a bit like you, use both of them, and it's also identifying, as you have, like the trends over time as well, but then actually going into the details. And if I fly, my heart rate will go up, my heart rate variability will go down as well.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has different, the parameters of which they operate in, and you kind of get to know it for yourself.
Yeah.
And though I'd definitely say, it'd be interesting to see if you kind of up your training a little bit more.
I'm gonna. I mean, actually, I've
impacts.
just started with a new training because I realised I love it, and I really missed it when my other one went. So I'm just going to work with a new one.
You need that external motivator.
I do. Yeah.
Accountability.
I'm just a bit lazy otherwise, and it's like half an hour's done. I'm like, I could do 10 more minutes, and I'm out of it. Brilliant.
Yeah, it is. But it's that difference in training between a 40-minute and a 60-minute window. And actually, within your schedule, if you're at the gym and you're ready to go, and you're going to do 40 minutes, actually if you can do 60, try and do 60, because within that extra 20 minutes you get so much more value for it.
Yeah.
And actually the fast factor of getting there, getting changed, getting showered, getting back to the office or wherever is still the same. So yeah, definitely try and carve it out. I've got a coach, and if I've got a session in there, I will try and keep it to the minute, because ultimately cumulatively over time, if I'm cutting it short just a little bit, it adds up.
I've got a bit of a theme at the moment. I think I just have to treat myself as a child to make sure every time someone else is making sure that I do what I say I'm going to do, otherwise I won't do it. Yeah.
I have more of it's like a scheduling thing, so it's scheduled in my diary when my workouts are, because if they're not scheduled, then something will crop up, or I'll go and do something else, and then the session goes away. And I try and train during the day as well, so because I find that in the morning I just kind of waking up, my body's a little bit slow, not quite alert, but my mind is when I'm most creative. So I've got some project work or some research, I'll crack on with that. Then by the evening I'm generally just exhausted. So if I can get my training in during the day, that is quality training, and that's ultimately, you want to have that quality, not just the quantity. And I do see quite a lot of people who just go and do like the junk miles, or they're kind of stuck in that really kind of ploddy, tempo-y kind of heart rate, which actually it's not achieving anything, you're just fatiguing yourself.
So that heart rate variability app is called HRV for training, isn't it? And the 4 is a number 4.
Yes.
And I've been playing around with that as well. It's really easy for anyone to use. I think it's free.
Because I me and my husband and I, we both use it. So it's kind of one of those little rituals in the morning. You kind of wake up, and before you kind of start to stir too much, it's just to kind of take it. And it's just a really great insight, because sometimes you can kind of think, I'm not feeling too great, whereas actually if you have that kind of concrete data to back it up. And there's times when I've been a bit under the weather, and my HRV has been ridiculously high or ridiculously low, and it just is like, dial back on your training today. And in a way it gives you permission to do that, so that you're only kind of training when you're at your best.
I'm not sure how accurate that app is. That's my worry about that app, because I think I've got a bit of a theory. I think I might be able to game the system with that app. If I meditate for a minute while I'm doing it, it seems to, the heart rate variability seems to be higher.
Down.
Whereas if you're wearing an Oura ring overnight, then it'll kind of measure it properly. Are we good?
She's done.
Oh, she's done?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that was quick. Okay.
Time to switch it up.
We'll pause, and then I'm going to get in and get the Normatec.
Which one was mine?
That one's yours.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so we've switched around now, haven't we?
Yes.
And we've just been trying out all sorts of different stuff they've got here.
It's
What's that over there? Is it a pulse?
Aladdin's cave going on.
There's so much fun stuff to try here. So I've got the Normatec pressure trousers on. It's probably not the technical term, but what was that ball? It's a pulse
roll.
Pulse roll, and it's basically looks like a peanut
that vibrates.
That vibrates
quite hard. I have to admit, I have got one, but it's just a ball that I got at a triathlon in South Africa, and it is amazing to get into your glutes.
Is it?
Really, yeah. It's that kind of borderline between pain and pleasure.
It vibrates?
Yeah.
Do you use it a lot?
Probably not as much as I should do, though, yeah. Nothing like a little bit of pulsing ball action on the living room floor.
I mean, like, if you've got neighbours, they're probably thinking, what is going on?
Yeah. No, but I definitely recommend, as part of your recovery process, definitely things like the Normatec and the pulse balls. They do. Every little bit helps. And we were also talking about the whole functional strength as well and yoga. Whoa!
That sounds like the pulse ball
going off in the background there. Oh.
And with the heart rate variability, I think it is quite interesting that the harder you work out, that more your heart rate variability improves up to a point. Because you said since you got back from Oman, your heart rate variability has gone down.
So my heart rate variability at the moment is low, and my heart rate is high. So I'm normally low 40s, and I've been high 40s, and it's almost I can feel. I can feel it within me. It's almost. I've been doing quite a lot of work as well, and there's been an element of that kind of stress that clearly adds and has an effect on your heart rate. Though I can kind of feel it within myself, and maybe I'm not quite sleeping quite so well. So I'm looking forward to Christmas and having a bit of an extended time just to relax and just bring it back down again.
And how much do you think your kind of success and insane ultra running skill is down to just the fact that probably genetically you're really good at that kind of thing? Because I kind of feel like if I was to run 130 miles, my knees would start complaining after about 15.
I'm not convinced by that argument. I do think the genetics can be a bit of a convenient get-out clause for us. And actually, how much are our genes activated? And you can go down the whole epigenetics, can't even say the word, line of thought. What is activated? It's actually a lot about your lifestyle choices and your environment and how you set yourself up. And I look back to myself back in my 20s, and I was in the military for 9 years. I very much embraced the living it up in the officer's mess. I did like to have the odd drink most nights. And I dabbled in the odd marathon, though nothing spectacular by any means. And I remember doing my first ultra in 2008, and I basically scraped through every single checkpoint. So actually, to come through, 10 years later, and to be on the podium, that's because of the choices I've made. That's because I've prioritised my training and made it an integral part of my lifestyle. So for me, it's about getting that balance between work and running. And it's a choice. And ultimately, we all have a choice. We all have that power to make decisions. In what do we make of them? I think sometimes we can talk ourselves out a lot of stuff, have excuses for everything under the sun, and ultimately, if you want to focus on something and make it a priority, then do it.
So, all that said, the marginal gains, you said maximising sleep is probably the number one. What else could people listen to and say, all right, it might not be that they want to run 100 miles, but it might be that they want to perform better at work, or they want to have a bit more energy. What other marginal gains do you think work for you that they might consider?
So nutrition has been a massive one as well. So I've experimented a lot with my nutrition, and I went through a DNA fit with Coach Kim Ingleby, who is a phenomenal and extremely inspirational person. And And yes, that gave an insight into my genetics, though coming back to it, it's, genetics isn't everything. But actually, what can you do with that information? How can you support your genes, work to optimize them? And then again, it's the marginal gains. It's knowing things like, okay, so from a micronutrient level, I'm deficient in selenium. Okay, let's have a few Brazil nuts each day. B12 is something that I need to support. And okay, so by using a B12 supplement, how does that improve things? And it's often, I can't place my performance on each tiny little one, though collectively they all come together. So yes, it has been my sleep, it's been my nutrition. And actually, coming back to the sleep, I think one of the best things we did in our house was put a blackout blind in the bedroom, which is so obvious that when you've got, the street lamp outside, which is on till midnight, and you can't get to sleep properly, actually that's a really disruptive factor. So it's kind of cleaning up your sleep hygiene so that when you go to bed, you're having quality sleep. And yes, we talked about the 8 hours. A lot of times people will go to bed and go, oh, well, I've had 8 hours in bed. Yes, but that's not actually 8 hours sleeping.
Yeah.
And it's going through those sleep cycles and making sure that you are, you're waking naturally. And actually, if you've had enough sleep, you will be waking naturally. And it's having that habit built in every day, so you're not kind of sleep deprived during the week and then making it up at weekends. And The Why We Sleep by Matt Walker is a phenomenal book which goes into so much detail, which I think is a must read for everybody. That's been really eye-opening. Just actually at the harsh reality of how important sleep is for us, and how as a society we've totally sidelined it.
What about supplements? Any particular supplements that give you that 5% more energy and you would recommend?
So just for me, for me it's more just come from the DNA fit. It's B12 and it's just a spray that I use. And then
do you take a lot of supplements?
No. So it's all basically eating as real food as much as I possibly can, and going to the farm shop to get meat, so you're getting that quality. And I do have a fascination of going around supermarkets and seeing what people are putting into their shopping baskets and just kind of going, oh my God, what are we doing? And there's certain aisles in the supermarket that I don't even go down because it's not food. It's a frankenfood that has been manufactured with ingredients that aren't even pronounceable. So why would I want to be putting that into my body? And it's having that mindset that actually I want to be nourishing my body. I want to be balancing my food, so I'm having fat, protein and carbs at every meal. I want to be making sure that I'm kind of hydrated as much as possible. And for me, caffeine after 2 o'clock, because of the way I process caffeine, it stays in my system for so long, so then it affects my sleep. The same as alcohol. And that's kind of it's been a journey of getting to know myself and the way that my body responds to things, and listening to my body as well. And I do a lot more yoga, and I've been experimenting with different types of yoga and meditation. And again, that's getting to know myself. It's a lot of it's around the breath work, of dialing into your consciousness and just getting into that state of flow, which kind of coming back to my running, that's all about peak performance. Okay, so how can I access that state of flow faster and for longer? And I do find a lot of the work, which started back in the 70s with Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, which has then been explored further with the whole rise of the fMRI scanners and the way that our brains kind of light up and fire. That kind of then has provided the scientific evidence to back it up, which is really exciting. And actually we're living in an exciting age really. It's kind of like that cusp of what are we possible of as humans, and actually how can we refine that. And actually with the rise of technology and AI, where are we going to go in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years? I feel quite privileged to be living at this time.
I feel quite terrified by it. I actually do. I do worry about it quite a lot.
It's all the application.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
Well, I'm quite happy wearing an ring. So, but I just don't want to be overrun by robots, really.
Have you read Dan Brown's latest one?
No.
I read it over the summer. Read it.
Is it good?
Yeah, it is.
So talking of books, obviously I have asked you this question before, but what is one book that you'd recommend and one tip for living with more energy?
No. There's just too many books out there.
You've already mentioned Why We Sleep, and that was one of my kind of books of the year last year that I recommended on this podcast, because I didn't feel like it was like a massive amount of insight. There's not like a eureka moment. It's just so fascinating to know all the reasons that we sleep the way we do, and then think, okay, now I know why it is so important to go to bed at the same time every night. That's basically what you get out of the book.
Yes, it does. It very much presents it from so many different angles, and the way that he sets it from a individual to a societal level and from an economic perspective as well, I think that really brings it to bear a lot.
Yeah.
And I do like the way that he kind of sets out his future vision as well. So he is very much, it's his passion. He's on a crusade.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how and if, when you look at work cultures and how sustainable it is, and the rate of burnout and stress and mental.
That burnout rate is getting. I just think anecdotally, I just know the pressure is increasing all the time.
Yeah, I was facilitating a workshop yesterday for the CIPD on workplace wellbeing, and a group of 12 HR directors from a variety of public, private sector, charity, Europe, UK, and just listening to the stories that some of their employees are experiencing, and then some of the initiatives that they're putting into place. Though, is it enough? What is enough? And actually, it's that conundrum of when does the business start adopting that parental approach, and how much of it is personal responsibility for the individual to take accountability.
Yeah, I thought about it a couple of nights ago. I got an email about 9 o'clock at night that basically pissed me off, and I was just livid. And I was like, right, do I meditate? Do I go for a walk? I did both.
And how did that work for
right.
you?
About an hour later, I was all right.
But
that's my downtime.
Yeah.
And I think I don't have a kind of job where I have to be kind of constantly connected to email either. So imagine the people that do. It's pretty hard. But anyway, back to the book. What is your book recommendation? What should people be reading?
Ooh.
Because I think you know a lot about the kind of cutting edge, I like to call it the new rules of health.
Though when I look at it, I always just think it's common sense that we've forgotten. And actually, when you trace it back to the Greeks and the Southeast Asian countries, even Bhutan, who's been embracing let's look at happiness as a measure rather than GDP.
Yeah.
It's more rediscovery, and I think it's more rediscovery through the technological lens, because that is enabling us to see it differently, and that is what satisfies our logic and our prefrontal cortex, which predominates so much. And actually it's opening ourselves up from a heart and intuitive gut perspective, and actually as the technology is, it has been proving that we have neurons in our heart and in our gut as well. Okay, so how do we employ them? How do we listen to them? How do we give them a voice? Because a lot of the times we're stuck in our heads. As a Western society, we are fascinated by our brains, and actually as a human being, our bodies are and hold a lot more.
I'm reading Dr. Michael Ruscio's book on gut health at the moment.
I can't beat a bit of gut health.
And he talks about all sorts of interesting. He's all about the science. He's all about meta studies, and he's all about not trusting one study but taking groups of studies together. There is loads of scientific evidence that if you grow up near a farm, your gut health will be more diverse. The more exercise you do, the more diverse the bacteria in your gut. Fascinating. That's an emerging area of research, but there's quite a bit of research on that already. So
yeah, because I did have a sample of my stool tested to see the diversity of my gut flora, and my husband's as well, and just seeing the results and how how different they were. And we've got very different genetical and growing up environmental backgrounds. And actually then it comes back to, okay, so when you're living with somebody, what do you need, what do they need actually to support their performance? And often it can be very, very different. And then within families, how do you cater for that when you're cooking, for example? And you might have very, very different requirements. Though an area that I do have a particular passion for, particularly when I'm working with my clients, is taking them outdoors. So it does come back to the impact of nature and green space on at various levels, and the whole eco-psychosomatics and how our attachment to the bigger environment and ecology as human beings, what does that give us? And actually we live out a lot of our lives within concrete jungles, and actually being divorced from the green space, how does that from a mental side impact us? And there's been a lot of studies as well, in hospitals where the patients have a view to see trees, and how much faster their recovery is. So my reading at the moment has been very much around taking conversations outdoors and the benefits of that, and drawing from that.
Great. And what about one tip for living with more energy and vitality?
One tip. Oh, how do you distill it down? How do you distill it down when there's so many and everyone's so different?
I mean, obviously, we've spoken about loads of stuff already.
It's been a total smorgasbord of performance.
Smorgasbord, it has, yeah.
So at Christmas, you have a smorgasbord of, I don't know, sugar. And we've had a healthy one.
We have, yeah. We're about to go and do cryo as well. But, is there one thing that stands out?
So the one thing for me is the sleep.
Yeah.
And that's what it is coming back to at the moment is sleep and prioritising.
And you were saying when you got back from Oman, how long are you sleeping at the moment?
It's for about 9 hours now, but there were certain nights where I was having a good 10.5.
Is that 9 hours sleep or 9 hours in bed?
Pretty much.
Or both?
It's zonked out straight away. Head hits the pillow, just gone.
Wow.
Because when you think about it, I basically have 4 nights of, and this is when I read things like Matt Walker's work in Why We Sleep, and from that perspective, ultra running through the night, that was 2 nights I didn't really get much sleep. And actually, how healthy is that for me?
Yeah.
It's not. So, okay, how can I mitigate against that as much as possible? And clearly, you can never make up sleep.
Yeah.
So how do I work around that and use other methods to try and limit or minimise the damage, which I am ultimately inflicting? When you read his work about lack of sleep and how it does cause fatigue in the brain and the different chemicals and how they build up, and your brain is not ultimately having the nighttime which it needs to cleanse itself so it can perform. So it's coming back to, for me at the moment, it's sleep and for my performance. And I know when I'm working, if I haven't had that sleep, I am not as cognitively sharp or as focused or as creative. Sometimes if you're sleep deprived, you're in that kind of phase and a bit of a fog. So it's a really important lesson for me that when I have a big event running wise, that afterwards I factor in time that potentially I'm not client facing for a few days, because ultimately I'm not providing the quality service which I want to be giving. So it's dialing that back as well, and then when I am at a certain level, kind of embracing it. Though I'm sure, if we touch base in a conversation in the future, it'll be, so what now? It might be something different. And that's the thing, I think, as you move through life, you have, different books that attract your attention, different top tips for performance, and it's all like a lifelong learning process. And that's what I think is really exciting, is that lifelong journey of growth and of development. And, we change as well. What worked in the past may not work now, what may not work in the future.
I'm done, aren't I?
Yeah. Yes,
wonderful.
It's time to unzip.
It's time to unzip.
I know it's really relaxing, but
It feels great, yeah. Anna-Marie, thank you. Where can people find out more about you and all your challenges in 20 hours? It's all right, you can unzip.
it's quite loud.
Yeah, don't worry about it, it's fine.
Social media wise, I am on Instagram and Twitter as @RFM Coaching. So that stands for Reach for More Coaching, and that is very much my philosophy at work. It's all about reaching out. We can all achieve phenomenal things when we put our hearts and minds and bodies to it. And my website as well is rfmcoaching.com. So yeah, I'd love to hear what your listeners' thoughts are around some of the topics that we have discussed, and ultimately what works for them, what are their performance enhancers,
and they can see what insane challenges you're going to do in 2019.
Oh yeah, 2019, the calendar is pretty much firmed up.
Is it?
Yeah.
What's the standout challenge?
We've got some more exciting travel and racing on the cards. So it's a bit varied. I am having, had the conversation saying I don't go back and do races. I'm actually going to go back and do an event, my first ultra that I did in 2008. So I'm going to go back and do it again, 11 years on, to see how I fare. So that's the one in Chamonix. Okay. So it's back in my mountain home. It's 98 kilometres with, I think about 6,700 metres of ascent, though it's fairly runnable compared to Oman. Yeah. It's not rock hopping, it's an actual trail and it's pretty smooth. So I've got that one, and then I'm dabbling about whether there's an event, a multi-day in Sri Lanka, though it's slightly different to the Marathon des Sables, potentially a bit more appealing, because rather than having to carry everything with you, you end up carrying about, for me it's about 7-8 kilos, which is actually quite a lot.
Hassle. Yeah.
This, they transport your stuff between places, which I just think is quite civilised, really. So you've only got like a little pack and you're going, and it's kind of a...
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very civilised.
See you there.
Right, should we stop recording and go and do the cryotherapy?
Oh, yes.
That's it. Thank you to Anna Marie, and thank you for listening to Zestology. Enjoyed talking about heart rate variability. I've been recently almost stumbling on a couple of hacks for increasing my heart rate variability, so I'll tell you about that in future episodes of Zestology. In fact, I'll probably write it on the blog. And if you are keen to measure your own HRV, then the Oura ring is good. And yeah, if you use the code Zestology, you get a little bit off as well. I think $50, £50, something like that, for the code Zestology for the Oura ring. Righty-ho, that is it. Thank you as always for listening, and I'll see you next time.